What's up, guys? Today we are doing a mock draft for the New Orleans Saints. We're going to do 7 rounds. Full disclosure, I don't know 7 rounds worth of names yet, so I will. I'm not there yet. I've been focusing on the NFL. If you watch this channel, you know I've been doing a lot of rookie watch videos, a lot of stuff like that, so I'm just not quite there yet.
Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
Damn it, I swear to God, I will turn this ship around!
I do feel like I have a good feel for the first 4 rounds at least, probably. Before we get into the actual mock, I want to kind of set up the situation and figure out what the plan is for the draft, right? So it's obviously early. Dennis Allen is gone. We have a lot of aging players with the Saints. That's just the reality of the situation. And we are in absolute cap hell. They've been kicking the can down the road for a really long time, and at some point we got to just pay the piper and move on. We're negative $77 million. That is insane. If it was me making these moves, and I know Mickey Loomis doesn't love this idea, probably. It seems like the Saints are always kind of steering away from the idea that they're rebuilding, but at the end of the day, Drew Brees hasn't been there for a while. This roster just isn't that good. Maybe it's good enough to win you the NFC South, or at least it has been, but that's not a great division. That's not a division that competes with the, top tier teams in the NFL. And if we look at the top tier teams in the NFC, we're not on the same planet as the Lions or the Eagles. We've had some bad luck with injuries, I get it, but in my opinion, we have a lot of older guys on the roster that are not performing the way their contract says they should be. I think we got to move on, trade who we can, take the cap hit as well as we can, and let's call it what it is. Let's call it a rebuild. Now, with that said, that's going to be my plan for this mock draft. Obviously, I don't have any control over that. The fans don't have any control over that. I think fans would probably agree that that's where we should go. So that's where I'm going to go with it. I'm going to focus on defensive line, offensive line. This isn't a great offensive line draft, so we'll probably go D-line heavy. I'm interested in retooling that entire defense line. You look at it, from a PFF grade standpoint, not a lot of production there lately. So that's kind of my first target. We're going to steer away from the splashy plays. If this is a rebuild, I'm a big believer in rebuilding the right way. That means in the trenches. That means quality players that are going to be there for 4 or 5 years, moving an organization along, moving a culture along.
Because if you go piss like a puppy, stay on the porch!
As far as the Derek Carr conversation, you look at the contract, I would imagine if you can move on from him, you will, but I don't know that Derek Carr's a super high-value name. It feels like Derek Carr really, really close to getting into that Andy Dalton portion of his career, whoever you want to call it, the older quarterback who kind of deteriorates into the backup quarterback, but a high-value backup quarterback. I mean, he could be that for as long as he wanted to be, but as a starter, it feels like we're ready to move on. With that said, I'm not going to draft a high-value quarterback. We might look later on in the draft to grab a guy, the same way we did with Rattler last year, and just grab another guy who can compete and be in that meeting room, in that quarterback room. With all that said, that's kind of my plan going into the draft. Let's go ahead and get into it. Looking at it here, just looking at how the board fell, I would have thought about Starks there from Georgia. I do think grabbing a safety to kind of be the heir apparent to a Honey Badger is something that I'm going to be thinking about. Scorton from Texas A&M. I actually just got done watching the Texas A&M Texas game, just because I was just watching the offensive line. I rewatched the entire game, watching the offensive line, because there's just so many names on both sides of that line, on both sides that are really interesting. And man, number 11 for Texas A&M is a giant human being, just a massive, massive defensive end, and moves so much better in its space than you expect. So that's where I want to go. And I do actually think, this fits that Cam Jordan vibe. I'm blanking on the guy that y'all Davenport, was that his name? The Toolsy guy that y'all traded up for a couple of years ago in the first round. That's kind of the vibe of this guy, in my opinion.
What are you discovering about yourself?
It's fun to go fast.
Is there anyone out there who wants to go fast?
I want to go fast.
Moving on to the second round, man, I'm looking at Campbell, Jahad Campbell, who is I really liked him. Again, I think number 11 again, actually, for Alabama. This is a dude who he came in, I believe, as an edge. He was a fairly highly touted guy, but Good, fairly good movement skills. I think is really good at read react. Gets through the trash fairly well. You know, he definitely gets caught up here and there, but not overly worried about that. But explosive. I mean, his trigger is lightning quick in my opinion. I like him a lot. But again, another guy who can replace, you know, the aging veteran and Demario Davis, who, I mean, he's got to be in his mid-30s by now. I mean, he's an older guy, and I mean, I feel like I was watching the Saints today. As of recording this, I'm recording this on a Sunday night. I feel like I saw him pop a couple times. So again, you know, I'm not saying I'm drafting for the future a little bit as far as guys that I think can come in and learn from veterans if they're still there and be a part of a good team. And I those two names I love for them. I think they're guys that can make an impact early on in their career as well. So looking in the third round, we'll see where we want to go with this. I am going to look offensive line. I do want to grab an offensive line before it's too late a little bit. Don't know where I want to go with it though. Donovan Jackson is a senior that I'm not opposed to grabbing in this range. Tate Ratledge is a name that I know, but not somebody I'm super familiar with. Another senior out of Georgia. That's not the worst call. Let's look at some other positions. Where do we have defensive line at? Again, I have no problem doubling up, especially in a draft where I do think this is kind of a strength of the draft. We haven't taken a safety, actually, so let me see where we're at with safeties. Man, I kind of like I like these names just as much as I like Ransom, but I could see some of these later names they're going to be there in the fourth round. So I'd rather wait and grab a safety in the fourth round that I think can be an impact anyway. I'm going to go ahead and take the guard out of Ohio State, Jackson. Again, it's. I know we're in rebuild mode, but I do want to have some names that can go in and learn, even if it's rough early on. I want to be able to have a guy who can grow in a scheme. So hopefully that's a name who can be a starter by year 2 at the very least, and hopefully day 1 starter, but we'll see on that. Robert Spears-Jennings is calling my name here. He's a safety, hard-hitting safety out of Oklahoma. He's a younger guy, physical, toolsy guy, but I think his coverage skills is probably lacking, but he's safety, and I think that's something you're going to learn in the NFL, and I think he can develop that. I don't think there's anything about him that says he can't learn to be better at that. It's just not all there at this point in his football playing career. So, yeah, we're going to take Spears. I think he could be the heir apparent to a Honey Badger. I really do. You grab him in the fourth round. I don't think he's going to be there in the fourth round. I personally don't. Getting to the fifth round, this is where it's going to kind of start to get a little bleak here as far as names that I know, if I'm being 100% honest with you, but I do want to go through the process. Logan Jones is a name that I like. Nick Anderson is a name that I like, but that's a wide receiver. Actually, I don't want to take a wide receiver. I want to go Ohio State again with Burks. Look, there's going to be a lot of Ohio State kids that get drafted. That's just a reality. Like their team is loaded with talent. The fact that they can't beat any big names, like I don't know why they can't beat Michigan either. There's no reason from a talent perspective they shouldn't be able to beat Michigan. That's a whole nother story. I apologize for bringing that up. Let's see here. I'm not going to go know any of these offensive linemen. Let's see if there's any defensive linemen that I like here. I'm going to take that off, and then we're going to take edge. What do we like? Derek Moore is interesting. Patrick Payton is really interesting. He's a little early for me in the fifth round, though. I don't know if I can take him there. This is a guy, look, I feel like he just needs a coach. I really do. I'd want to know the guy. I don't know him as a person, but you watch him, and he's got all the measurables. I know he's got all of the physical tools to be really, really good. And he plays soft. Like that's genuinely that's what my take was. And again, I'm not at a point where I've deep dived on a lot of these dudes, but like I watched him, I'm like, man, like just try a little. And I don't know. It's a name where like in this range, in the fifth round is still a little early, just because like it's frustrating almost to watch him. But you get into the 6th and 7th round, like you're gonna take a shot on a guy who just has all the tools, and like can he get into an NFL locker room and you know kind of get that physicality in him and learn from coaches and grow as a player. There's a chance, yeah, you know, in the later round of the draft, it's worth a shot on it because the upside is legit. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go Burks. This is again. this is a high level guy. I believe he's a senior. Yeah, he's been there for a while. He's a good player, solid corner. I don't really think he should be here in the 5th round. Like, I'll put it this way: Taheeb Still, the corner for the Chargers, just had 2 interceptions today. As of recording this, he had a 2 interception day today. He was a 5th round pick. The Chargers got drafted another 5th round pick in corner Hart, I believe, and they're starters. I look at Burke and I'm like, man, put him in the right spot, put him in a good situation. He can be a starter in the NFL. I really believe that. Like, maybe he doesn't have like elite upside. Like, I don't see a guy who's ever going to be a top 5 corner in the NFL, but man, like, I think he can play. I really do. So a guy like that for a rebuilding team, like, I'm a big fan of that. I think the floor is kind of high for him. So I'm going to take him there and bet on floor. All right, let's see here. Wigman. Potential, man. Just potential. Whatever. Yeah, I'm going to take my boy. I'm going to take Peyton here. Patrick Payton, 6th round, just take a shot on upside and coaching. I kind of already talked about him already, a pick before, but we're going to go with Payton, and then we'll finish this draft out. Where do we want to go with the last pick? I'm not going to really know a lot of these names if I'm being 100% honest. So we grabbed we'll go through the entire draft later, but just looking at a position that I would want to touch on again. CJ Taylor, no. I actually just watched him live the other day. Nah, we're good there. Sorry, buddy. Good guy, I'm sure. I believe that he is anyway. All right, and with my last pick, I was going through the line, and I realized I'm way overthinking the 7th round pick, so I'm going to cut a little bit of that, and we're just going to go here with B.J. Adams, corner out of UCF, the only corner left on that board. We'll just kind of take the 7th round for what it is. I'm just not super familiar with a lot of those names. And if you are, and you had a name that you loved there that you wanted me to take, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think about this draft as a whole. Looking at the final report card here, Scorden, I really like for you guys. I think that's a good pick. Maybe a little higher than I think he'll ultimately end up going. But as far as for this exercise, I really like him. Jahad Campbell, another name that I'm just a big fan of. We got a lot of my guys in this draft. We really did. Donovan Jackson, I felt like we had to at least address the offensive line at some point, so I think that's a good move there. Another one of my guys, Robert Spears-Jennings, I'm a big fan of. Denzel Burks, I'm a big fan of. Look, we went defense heavy. We did in a draft that I do believe is going to be defense heavy. I think we attacked the value of the draft, which is a big thing, right? Especially when you're rebuilding. Attack the value. Go grab names. We have good wide receivers coming back next year. I thought about it, when I was preparing this video. Do we want to target any other positions at any point in this draft, or do we want to worry about positions like wide receiver or running back and things like that? Like, we have those spots. We really do. I mean, we have a superstar running back. We have Olave. We have Shaheed, who's going to be coming back from injury. Both of those guys will be coming back from injury. So as far as like the offense is concerned, there's still pieces there on the offense. I think the defense, we can build an identity through the defense. We do need to rebuild. I think there isn't really a name on this roster right now that if there was an offer and a trade, or if there was a way to move him and gain value from him, I would do. Like, even Olave, who I really like, if, and I'm not saying it would happen, but like if the Chiefs offered you a late second, maybe not the Chiefs, just because you don't want to see them put up 1,500 yards every year in another team. But like, I think you probably take any deal that you can. You embrace the rebuild, and we've seen it work, man. We've seen it work for the Lions. They traded some of their, obviously they traded their quarterback, were able to get some big pieces and make a move. We saw it work with the Dolphins to a lesser extent, obviously, but they trade left tackle to the Texans for multiple picks, and it kind of turns them into at least a competing team, over a 2-year span. It happens quick in the NFL. That's kind of the way the NFL is designed. So I am a believer in, gutting the team, starting over from scratch. We can build a team pretty quickly if you give me some assets, fix the cap situation because we can't get anything in free agency right now, and build through the draft for a couple of years. That's my take. But all right, guys, that is all I got on the Saints. Let me know what you guys think. Was this an interesting format. Like, let me know if there's any way that I could have maybe tweaked this video. Let me know what you thought about the picks. Let me know anything that you have to say. The comments do help. So, like, even if you just want to throw some emojis up there or something like that, that helps the channel grow. It really does. If you're interested in anything else I've been doing rookie watch videos, looking at all of like the 2024 draft class, and now I'm slowly starting to kind of move on and start looking at the 2025 draft class and prepare for that. I'm going to have a ton of draft profile videos coming out about all the prospects and all that stuff. So if you're interested in all that stuff, you know, you can help out a small channel by subscribing. But hey, thank you so much for watching. Peace.